just got up a brief time ago. I I wanted to start this off by just kind of talking about, well, I guess two things. One, I got yesterday, I went to sleep at 3 or 4 in the morning, at probably like 4 in the morning, and woke up at 9. Um, and for like all of yesterday, I was just kind of, it's like I have this state where I'll be able to stay up after that, but still be tired. Like I can still, keep hearing myself yawn and like that. But I still decided to not attempt to go back to sleep because by virtue of not living by myself, I always have to, I guess, worry about someone messing with me or trying to like wake me up or something to that effect. That's happened a lot, and it's one of the most aggravating things I can think of as far as just when I'm trying to, generally relax and then another person won't let me effectively. They block you from being able to do that. But I was just going to say that made me start this later than usual because I planned on going to sleep at 1 tonight as like a compensation for just how long I'd been up the day before. And I kid you not, even though that was my intention, later in the same, I guess, span of hours, I got called by this person. They talked to me for probably, yeah, for like an hour and almost an hour and a half. So I didn't get back in until like, or didn't really get off the phone with them until just before 2 o'clock. So I, uh, I just couldn't do it anymore. As far as like, that was when I was finally able to go to sleep. And even though it was an hour earlier than, and it's just like another thing I've started noticing, the earlier I go to sleep seems to create the earlier I wake up. So if I go to sleep at 1, thinking, okay, I'll wake up at 9, get my 8 hours. Oh, now I wake up at like 7:30. If I go to sleep at 2, then I wake up at 8:30. If I go to sleep at 3, I wake up at 9:30. I mean, it's you just can't win with this stuff, I tell you. So that was a great source of aggravation for me. Along with this past, what was that, Friday? Yeah, where I had been scheduled to go in for a job at, I believe, a 10 a.m. and I got up at 8:30, and I got it's over and it's an hour away from my house, so I know that when I leave an hour early from where from when the actual time starts, there's like a pretty good chance I can get there. And I kid you not, even with the freeway, I still ended up being late. I still couldn't. I didn't. It was like 10 o'clock. They wanted me to be there. I got there like 10:17, 10:15. Um, and it's the first time I've ever been to a job uh, late ever. It really frustrated me because that traffic, man, it will destroy everything. So I guess I have to leave 2 hours before or 3 hours before just to make sure I get there on time. And I really hate having to do stuff like that, but I gotta tell you, when you're told to get up really early in the morning, or early or like during the morning, and it's like sandwiched at a time that you normally don't get up, and they know when they hire you like where you live, right? So they know you're coming from somewhere that's kind of far away. They like no one actually complained about it. As far as the manager didn't say anything, and no, like I called them at the time and told them I was probably going to be in late. But it just really upset me that I try so hard to have a little tiny bit of professionalism, just a smidge of it, and I couldn't make it. And I'm telling you, I looked at that clock. it said you're going to be there first at 9:50, and then when the traffic just kept jamming up, it went to 9:53, then to 9:55, and I just wanted to slam my head against the keyboard. I was like, yeah, this is what the speed of the freeway looks like. I think I would have been faster if I walked there. Well, I know tomorrow I think it's at 2 o'clock it starts. I'll look on the schedule again, but I'll just have to leave 2 full hours before it starts to get over there, which is insane. But that's one of the joys of being of working at two different places. I guess one is really close by to where I actually could walk over there, and the other one is so far away that even if you leave a two full hours before it even starts, you still might not get there depending on how bad traffic is. But I was so angry on Friday. I was like, why? They have they have branches of that company, so that restaurant that are like by me. One that's about 2 miles away from me, and another one that's like 4 miles. I said, why of all the ones that hired me, do I have to get the one that's over 20 miles away? Well, like, just you know. And like I know with every job, there's a part of it that you hate, but I I just don't like that distance. It's pretty awful. Added in that they barely give you any hours, and it's another reason to just be like to hell with it. That's why I'll probably be more inclined to demand hours from the other place, or I guess to like be open to working with them more often. Oh, and also let me mention this. So they both of these places have employee discounts. The one that takes me an hour to get there, um, I was like, oh, cool. I like their food. Okay, but there's a snag. You can only use your employee discount when you're working, and you can only use it at the one that you work at. So that means that, like, let's say I'm hungry and I want something from them, right? When I go to the one that's 2 miles from my house or 4 miles or whatever, I can't use the discount. I have to drive 20 miles and then I guess also be working to use my. And this is a place that gets pretty busy. I mean, they've had days where the line was like going out the door. So if you try to like get food while you're on your break, and you get in that line, by the time you even get to the front, your break is over. So I said it's all just nuts. I feel really bad for anyone that believes in that con. It's crazy that a discount is so rigid, like it should be if you work somewhere, you can prove that you work there, then you get the stuff, half off, whatever the amount they wanted to tack on there was. But I can't help but feel a certain sense of bitterness. I'm like, so I have this discount that I can't use at all, uh, because I don't live by here, and the few times when I'm here, the line is always so un unreasonably long that you couldn't expect to possibly be able to get to the front of it and eat your stuff in that little. It's stupid. I just know one of the days this week they're gonna have me there from I believe 6 to 1. So at least I'll get something close to a full shift at last. Everybody wants 3 hours and 4 hours and all the other nonsense. So we'll see how that turns out. I do find that funny. This is the first food place I've worked for where I probably would actually want to eat their food. Um, and then like as a way of mitigating that, they make sure to make it to where you still can't even really get any perks from being an employee there because they're so rigid in terms of how they structure their discount system. It's really, I think it's really really scummy, but whatever. They always find a way to disenfranchise someone. It's like, oh yeah, you have this discount and you can use it while you're here. It's like, no, I can't because I'm working, and if I get in the line and I'm not able to get in the front by the time the 10 minutes are over, then the only way you could probably realistically work there and get whatever you want for half off or whatever is if you're there like all day long or for a full 8 hours and they give you a 30-minute break. Like in that time period, yeah, but the rest of it, no. No, that was really lame when I found it out on Friday, and I just got back from that drive and I was hungry. I still got the thing anyway, but it was just they always uh they always make it difficult for you to receive any kind of benefit, you know. And it really all just comes down to greed because it's kind of like I was talking about. A lot of these places have started charging people more money for like extra sauce, and when you go to the market, they're like, "Oh, you want a bag? Okay, 10 cents." It's like if somebody's paying for stuff that's groceries 20, 30, 40, 50, $60. In my opinion, it's just my opinion. You can call me a socialist, whatever, but I think the bag should be free because the amount that they're paying in groceries is so much larger than the amount that that bag is worth. 10 cents for a bag. It's just too much, man. They are always looking for a way to get a kickback. It's like, hey, you're paying for 50, 60, 70, $80 worth of groceries. Would you also like to be charged an additional 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 cents, depending on how many bags you need? It's like, no, I would not. I have a whole bunch of bags too, is what's funny. Like I have so many bags from the market now that I don't even I'll just like stick one in my pocket and that'll be it. Like they'll be like, "Hey, you need a bag?" It's like, "No, I haven't needed one in months." I just find that really comedic. And then for a while they were using paper bags, which are the worst because they rip up so easily. So the plastic ones. This is still much better than if I had tried to do this at 8. I would have been throwing my head against the wall or whatever, just on the verge of passing out. So this is still more desirable. I was writing that script on what was that, Friday? No, Saturday, and I had started editing, and it is almost done with editing. I might because I have to go to work at like 4:30, and it's mm, about to be 10:30, so I've got a few hours where I could probably squeeze it in. But I was thinking about this. I said, isn't it sad that because like this stuff is not made to expose someone, to embarrass someone, to attack somebody. It's really just, and I've always defined it this way: when you have something you want to say to a person, but you can't say it either because they blocked you, they made it to where you couldn't like send them a direct message, but you want to express it anyway. A video where maybe you have some screenshots, maybe you don't. I have some, but I don't have everything, but because a lot of it was voice to voice. But it's like this isn't done for the purpose of, I'm now going to mess with you. Ha ha. It's me just expressing frustration over something that really did upset me. I mean, 4 months of being strung along on this idea that this person is supposedly someone that likes you. And then they tell you the real reason why they've been acting like such a just flaky, distant individual. And you think, oh, maybe this is finally over. Maybe they can actually treat me like a human being. Oh, nope, they want to kiss up to their boyfriend. So, but I just thought it was funny the defenses. I don't have the screenshots of this part, but like the defenses that their friend was having, where they're like, uh, you know, you're like a kid in elementary school with these videos. I'm like, okay, don't watch me. That's the funniest part, that like people on YouTube make videos about other YouTubers all the time, and they stick their name in the title. It's like if I do a video where I'm like, "Hey, there's a content creator and they did this to me," da, 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 da. It's like no one knows who she is. No one's seen her channel. No, like literally, it's done just to vent. There's no attempt at creating any type of messing with this person, and they try to act as if you're like the worst person that ever lived if you speak in this way, or rather if you address this in the video. So like it's fine for people to sell on their own channels and talk trash about you in the comment section. People can talk trash about you on other websites. That's all fine. But if you make a video talking about something that upset you, someone that you directly interacted with, you've crossed the line somehow. Man, these double standards, they never get old. No, I was just thinking about Rosalind Carter and the whole like thing from yesterday. Um, it's really surreal that the former president's been in hospice since March, and a lot of people were like portraying him as near death's door and all the rest of that crap. Uh, and then his wife enters hospice care not even 3 days ago, by Sunday, and then passes 2 days later. Uh, just out of the blue. Yep, I'm allowed to vent whenever I'm upset, but if you do it, you're a bad person. No, it's double standards. They can talk about you in comment sections on other websites. Like remember, they're not. It's one thing if you and I, for example, are talking in private messages about why something or someone is messed up, but they're on public platforms, publicly talking. Maybe they don't say your name, right? But they're like they're talking about you, and they're allowed to do that. But then if you respond to them doing that, they have a problem with it. They're like, "Oh my god, how could you do this? You are stoking drama." Also, Akatsuki merch, I need you to do me a favor. Now, look, I don't know how old you are. I'm gonna assume you're at least 15, maybe 25, 35, whatever. But go back 4 years ago, and Marvel was putting out movies that were making billions of dollars. You had Infinity War, you had Endgame. Even as much as I hated Captain Marvel, um, and just I mean, even like 2 years ago, you had No Way Home. So how did they go from these billion-dollar movies to now they had their first movie this year, Ant-Man 3, underperform, and the new one, The Marvels, is looking to be their first box office bomb in their entire 15 year old series, 14-year-old series. How did that happen? So I want you to explain to me how Marvel went from having these billion-dollar movies not even 4 short years ago to now having one movie that underperformed. It didn't bomb, it just underperformed, and having another one that is actually bombing. I want you to explain to me how that happened. Just fill me in. It's really confusing. I need someone to articulate to me in Roman English how this studio that was running the most successful movie franchise of all time is now suddenly losing all of this damn money. Please explain it to me. I'd love to hear it. I'm not joking. I'd love to hear what your rationale is for this because I am shocked. I'm perplexed. I'm astonished really at just the pitfall. Now, if you're a little nervous, you want to speak up, that's fine. We can't all be great orators. But I was just really curious because I know that you probably liked the Marvels. You probably thought it was a really good movie. Um, but I've seen a lot of people who are saying that it's bad, and I have no idea, man. The world is wacky nowadays. I was expecting a better answer from you. The actual reason, as far as I can tell, is that 4 short years ago, Marvel had characters that people actually cared about, and they had a direction they were actually following through with. And now they're a disjointed mess that is failing to entice audiences the same way they did before. So, like, something like No Way Home, right, did really good. And then, Doctor Strange 2 made almost a billion, right? Although you could say that that's because of several factors, but whatever. Stuff like that did really good. Um, Black Panther 2, even without having its lead actor, still made 800 million. But then you look at stuff like Black Widow and Eternals and, um, you know, again, Ant-Man 3, the Marvels, like no one really cares. They're not pulling in that much money. They're kind of they're just there. So I think it's because they lost their two most iconic stars. You know who I'm talking about. I don't even have to say their names. I feel like they got new writers at some point. Those writers couldn't be bothered to polish up their knowledge on older Marvel projects. Yeah, like for example, if you watch Black Panther 2, there's a line from Shuri about how there are robots that like her mother comments like she's afraid that the AIs or the robots are gonna like take over the world, and she tells her you watch too much movies or too much TV. And this is really like in any other film this would be fine, but it's like does she not know about Ultron? So they do show sometimes they don't remember what happened. And actually, there's an interview with Sam Raimi where he said he'd only seen 4 MCU movies before getting hired. Iron Man, I think Black Panther, the first Avengers, and something else. So that's a part of it, but the individual stories themselves are not considered compelling. Like I watched reviews of Ant-Man 3, and what were people talking about? Oh, Kang, new main villain, Kang. They didn't care about his relationship with his daughter or um, you know, Michelle Pfeiffer finally getting a leading role in one of these after sitting out the first one and being a cameo in the second. So like that's my point, that their people are not really interested in each individual film anymore. It's more so just what can you set up, like basically just what's the sequel bait. Like if you look at the Marvels, the main thing people are reacting to positively um is the post credit scene. Post credit scene actually is pretty nice, I have to admit, but so it results in a lot of continuity errors in the new phase. But like, you've had issues with continuity and other stuff before and people still watched. Like, you also know that one of the things they like to do now is they hand wave issues like that by just saying, "Oh, it's another universe, different universe." People were talking about how Kang looked really weak, losing to Ant Man, like literally getting ran over by ants. And the response to that was, "Well, he could just be a variant." That was what somebody told me on Discord. I said, "Well, I didn't say it's too much. It's like pretend that's true. Why should I care? Like, what stakes are there to your story if no matter what happens to your villain or to one of the characters in it, they can just say, "Oh no, that wasn't the real him." Man, I'm just sitting there thinking like they really went from 4 years ago having like Endgame was the second highest grossing movie of all time. You went from that to this. That's what I'm saying. If you actually sit back and think about it, it's really crazy that you can go from having the second highest grossing movie of all time and several movies that have made over $1 billion to now basically just a bunch of random events in various films that are all performing under what you would have preferred. Like the only movie that did really, 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 really good was No Way Home. No, I'm not questioning the quality of each film. What I'm saying is it's insane to think that in 4 years, 4 calendar years, they went from having the second highest grossing movie of all time to now having a box office bomb. The same studio. And like Endgame was fine. I prefer Infinity War. I already explained in another stream that they do this. They commit the same sin of Young Justice season two. They don't want to show stuff, so they have this giant time skip that solves everything off screen, and it really annoyed me. It still annoys me, and it's why I'm not as much. I don't dislike the film, but it's a big part of the reason why I think it is a step down from its immediate predecessor. Because what I tried to tell people is that No Way Home was such an outlier from this like current slop of stuff because it was made in conjunction with Sony, and you can infer that a lot of people went to see that movie for the other two versions of Spider-Man that they thought were in it, and the villains from other series that they knew were in it. Before even like seeing the film, because remember they cut out Garfield and Maguire from the trailers, deceptively edited. God, they made 32 movies, and each one was able to turn a profit until this one. I remember when people kept saying that I was crazy for claiming that Captain Marvel only made as much money as it did because they sandwiched it in between Infinity War and Endgame. But I guess I was right because look, there's no Avengers movie this time for you to like fall back on. So what now? What's the excuse? Oh, I keep forgetting Guardians 3 came out this year. So yeah, besides Guardians 3, which made like 800 million, somewhere in the high ballpark of almost 900 million, they really haven't been having that many successes. Like Miss Marvel, who is in the Marvels, as far as I can remember, was the least watched show out of any of that Disney Plus stuff. So it's like you want to make a movie centering around the main character or one of the main characters is from some show that barely anybody even watched to begin. I think we're charged up enough here. Think about that. What sense does that make? One of your lead character in your movie that you think is going to make $1 billion is from a show that nobody watched. I'm serious, man. Like I think in 100 years, or maybe not even that, in like 30 years, people are going to be talking about the fall of Marvel. They're going to talk about how everything just spiraled to nothingness after Endgame. Because they're losing so much damn money that they were talking about possibly bringing back RDJ and Chris Evans, which they said they were done, but I think if they paid them enough, they could probably get both of them back for at least a movie. Dude, you know damn well if they make another Avengers movie with Iron Man, Cap, and Thor in it, it's gonna make at a minimum like 900 million or $1 billion. There's no way it makes less than that. If you actually brought them back after all this time. That's why Marvel Studios is stupid because it's like, oh, this actor wants 25 million. It's like, yeah, you pay him 25 million, and then your movie ends up making $1 billion. That's a pretty good investment. I feel so bad for Chris Evans. Like he got this big. He was in these two whatever type Fantastic Four movies. Then he comes back to comic book films and plays one of the most iconic, well liked performances out of the last like 20 years. Then he's like, okay, I'm gonna move on. I'm about to be middle aged. I want to just kind of relax, do some other type of stuff, and everything he's done since then has kind of just been whatever. Like he was in what is that Lightyear as the voice for Buzz, and then he's in some other like Apple TV and straight to streaming crap. It's really sad. Like him and Hemsworth, I feel bad for because they're actually good actors that probably thought after Marvel they were going to get this career boost, and they really have not had it, which is unfortunate. Like they'll probably always be able to find work, something to appear in, right? But as far as like actually being in some big huge film that kind of like how with Tom Cruise, that's actually someone who has been in stuff that mattered, Mission Impossible, Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick. It's like I wish Evans and Hemsworth had something like that because at least with RDJ, even if he never comes back to Iron Man, he can still play Sherlock Holmes. Dude, that guy who made the video about the death of cinema was not lying when he said that the characters now matter more than the actors. Like you don't go to see an Iron Man film for RDJ, you go to see Iron Man. It's really sad because it is true. These franchises have just destroyed everything. Like you can't make a single. I don't know, man. Movies used to be so much more experimental, but because of how studios are and all the money they get to throw around, they've turned everything is just it's all franchise stuff. sequels, and that's about it. And movies that try to start a that try to get more movies made in the same universe or same series or whatever. It's really sad. I remember this one guy came on one of my shoes. He was like, "Do you want to be an actor?" I said, "No, no, no, not at all." Um, if I wanted to do any type of acting, it'd probably be voice acting because it's just much easier for me to feel comfortable when I'm just doing a voice, like reading something, or obviously in an expressive way, but still, like it's not as nerve wracking to like physically be there and have to make all these different expressions. Plus, I feel like voice actors don't attract the same level of scorn that regular actors do. Like people maybe might not like a voice for something, but they won't say, "Oh, this person doesn't know how to emote. They don't know how to have range." The process of movie making has been reduced to this cold corporate product, like you said. You no longer go to see movies for the actor; you go to see a character or product. And it's so sad too because there's a lot of really good actors. Like, even though I wasn't a fan of the sequel trilogy, I like Adam Driver. He did a movie with Scarlett Johansson where they played like a divorced couple that I really liked, and it's like the whole movie is just the two of them sitting in different rooms and talking. I enjoyed it a lot. So but you get where the movie star is dying, like it's actually a thing of the past. Like, how often do you hear anyone talk about? I'll give you an example. When Creed 3 was announced, I was like, okay, I guess I'll go and see it maybe. And I was like, oh, Stallone isn't going to be in this one. The same Stallone that kickstarted this series back in '76, who's played this iconic character for 8 movies, he's not going to be in the next one. Well, I'm good. And I've seen pieces of it here or there, but as far as like really getting into it, it's hard for me because I love Stallone. He's one of my favorite actors. You look at Terminator, they're talking about you had Arnold say that he's not going to be in the next one. Like, well, I mean, that makes me kind of not that interested. So, like for me, as someone who enjoys whether it's franchise films, whether it's just like you know different stuff that comes out here or there, I do care about the actors in it. There's a whole bunch of stuff I've tried out because, oh, I know this one actor. I've seen this actor in something else before. But because a lot of people are not like that anymore due to all of this hyping up of franchises and these like interconnected stories, they don't care. I really like Defoe. I went to see American Psycho because him and Christian Bale were in it. Um, he was in Aquaman, but it's like he's in a lot of stuff that people who only care about all this comic book franchise crap will never give a chance to because they've only been trained to like and be invested in one type of movie. So there really is almost no such thing as like a superstar actor. Like really think of all the big name actors that are like still around. How often do you see people talking about them? Like for example, they do Indiana Jones 5. You get Harrison Ford back. And I'm hearing about how stupid the story is. Not, oh man, I got a Harrison Ford movie with it. Man, I got to go. People didn't care. So that makes you really question, like, what is the marketability of these people? Are we really at a point now where everything is just it's either part of a series or some that they think they can make sequels to, and to hell with whoever's actually in it? I find that really scary because most movies are not sequels, or not big franchise films with $100+ box office, not box office budgets rather. So This means that, for example, again, I'm just gonna give you an example. Let's say I wrote a script for a movie, and it is about I don't know, let's say a couple, right? And I go to a studio and I say, look, I think this film can be successful on a limited budget of probably 3 million, 5 million. And we've got some good actors. Maybe they're not too well known, but whatever. We got some really good actors. We have some nice set pieces. There's a clear, like, genuine vision of a story here, right? But because this film is not part of a franchise, or because it's from someone that they don't necessarily want to take a chance on, they'll pass you up to pursue making a movie that, before it's even finished filming, they're signing the main actor on to do three more of those. Like, there are so many bad films that came out with the intention of trying to sequel this, sequel that, sequel this, sequel that. Look at 2016 Ghostbusters. They were talking about doing a trilogy of those. They weren't focused on making a good movie. And guess what? It bombed, and they said to hell with it, and then went back to the original continuity with Afterlife. Um, Look at the Green Lantern film from 2011. That was supposed to be a trilogy. It even ends on sequel bait in the post-credit scene with the Sinestro Corps lantern ring. And guess what? That bombed, so we didn't get any more. I mean, I like these all to some degree or another, but that's kind of how the last three Terminator films have been, where they're all just sequel bait. Like, oh, look at this new character who's supposed to lead this new trilogy that never is going to come out when this one tanks. Dude, cinema is dead. Like, in 10 years, get ready for it, man. All you're gonna see are sequels, and this superhero this and this superhero that. They don't care about any actors anymore, and it's really unfortunate because a lot of them are nice people and are talented. And it wasn't like this back in the 70s, 80s, even like 90s. It's only been since the 2000s forward that there's been this increasing push that everything has to be part of some big series. Like, you go and you look at top 10 highest grossing movies from, I don't know, 1989 or 1990. You're seeing dramas and comedies and just all types of different stuff. These like one-off films. But now everything that's successful is either part of a series or supposed to kick off one. That's why Barbie was so refreshing, because it wasn't, it was something different that wasn't part of a. I mean, I know I made like jokes about it, but you get the idea that it wasn't just the same old punch punch kick kick, fight the supervillain at the end of it, save the day ordeal. So yeah, nobody cares about actors anymore, and I think that's to the detriment of movies. If you have to play a certain character, like, can you imagine how crazy it would be if I told you, like, you had like, let's say I said, okay, based on your schedule, you can be in 5 movies every year for the rest of your life. You're like 30, right? But the catch is that the only movies you're in that people are going to really truly care about, and you know hundreds of millions are going to go and line up to see it, and it's going to make $1 billion or 800 million or whatever, are the 6, 7, 8, or 9 where you play this character in this film series. How crazy is that? The only movies out of some big storied 100+ film career that anyone is going to care about that you're in are the ones where you play this character. So if you're not playing that character, the interest in you drops off by like 60, 70, 80%. It's really scary, man. Because some actors really don't, they want to avoid being typecast. They want to be in other stuff. They don't want to just play the same thing over and over. But that's what ends up happening when you look at these franchises and how everything is geared around this character and this this who oh what's going to happen in the next one, the sequel. Like that's all that matters at this point. There's no concern for the people behind this stuff, right? Just whatever. And it's pretty surreal because I've known people in real life that actually have favorite actors who, if they're in something, they'll go and watch. But those people are becoming far fewer and in between. Dude, cinema and animation are both on their way out. Everything Martin Scorsese said was right, that all the films are just turning into franchises and sequels, and oh, it's bad, man. Tell you, there's a reason why out of all these different cinematic universe, only one of them has been successful. Like to where they actually had a vision and followed through with it, and got all the way to the finish line. Only ever happened one time. The MCU started that, and it was the only one. It had some shortcomings, some pretty weak villains, few recasts that took place, but generally speaking, that period of 2008 to 2019, they had a singular vision and they followed through on it. You look at something like the DCEU or the failed attempt by Sony at having a TASM universe, or what's another example? The Dark Universe. All that stuff was made so that they not because we're going to make this great, amazing film. Most of it was just them trying to see if they could squeeze some more money out of moviegoers. Here's a crappy film that's basically a trailer for a bunch of other stuff. Uh, and we think you're going to watch it and like it because, oh, look at all the stuff it sets up. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm always so harsh on TASM too, because it's just a trailer for a bunch of movies that never got released. So watching it now is even worse because you're being led off a cliff. Like it's not a good film in its own right. The first one, I've always had my issues with it, but I can watch it as a singular entity and not feel like what the hell is this? It tells a complete story. But as far as the second one, it literally just exists to set up several other films that all never saw the light of day. Same thing with The Mummy. It's like you get Tom Cruise in this movie where he's supposed to be fighting some evil mummy, but then you barely give her any screen time, and you got him sitting up with some group that collects monsters and this room with all these different pieces of them. It's like, that's not in there so that they can tell a good story. It's there to set up sequels. Not sequels, rather, other films in the same universe. I always have to explain to people that Star Wars and Harry Potter are not cinematic universes. They all had a linear, singular, numbered story. They've had spin-offs, right? But like as far as the main thing that people think about, it's you know movie one, movie two, movie three, four. So many franchises, man. I'm telling you, that stuff really does hurt films because a lot of these movies that are made to set up other stuff are garbage on their own because they had no vision. They just wanted to get from. I guess I'll put it this way: the reason I really like the first Iron Man, um, is that it's trying to tell its own story. Like you can watch that film divorced from the rest of the MCU, and you're really not in need of anything else. Like you could just interpret the post credit scene as like a fun little comic Easter egg, whatever. Um, whereas the second Iron Man is a trailer for Avengers. But the point I'm making is that film succeeded, that first Iron Man, because they wanted to make a good film. The rest of this stuff is just being created to drudge along to some finish line of a sort. And you don't think that's kind of sad that like all the films have to be the same thing? They all have to be the same, like superhero, supervillain, uh dynamic with the love interest, and like just because you think about it, like a movie is a hour and a half to 2 hours to sometimes 3 hours, you know, film that you can do all types of stuff in that period. But if everything is limited to franchises, which oftentimes feel like they have to play safe to ensure they get a sequel, you're limiting the amount of ability for people to get something different is what I'm saying. Like when you think this is okay, I'm just making one movie, I can do whatever I want. There's no consequence because that this is it. That's why I said it's sad, man. Movies are in a dire state and nobody recognizes it at this point except for a few people. Like general audiences really don't know that they're like basically destroying their own entertainment. Because again, it's like it's not even as if all this superhero stuff is just so amazing and it's all great. No, like everybody was talking about how crappy the Flash was and how bad the Marvels is, and I've seen people say Ant-Man 3 was awful. So it's like even in a year where these things are coming out left and right and being bashed by critics and fans alike, a lot of those fans are still not really giving anything else a chance. They're not, really experimenting with something else. I want you to think about this. You have people who are more likely to go see a crappy superhero film, one that everybody around them is telling them is not good, stay away from it, several times a year than they are to go and watch one comedy or one drama or, you know, one thriller. Like, you don't think that's sad? They have this one type of thing that they like, right? All these different capes and costumes, and they would rather watch several poorly done versions of that each year than give another genre a chance ever. Because like I said, you go back to like 2018, we had um, Black Panther, which a lot of people really they were like, oh my god, it's so great and amazing. I wasn't one of them, but whatever. You had Spider Verse, you had Infinity War. Like there was some quality stuff that year. But everything that's coming out now, except Guardians 3 and Spider-Verse 2, is not being seen as favorably, and in many cases being ripped apart as being awful. And people are still going to watch this stuff, not because it's of some great quality or they want to see it. No, it's literally, this is the only type of movie I've been trained to care about and or have any desire to see. So I'm going to check it out because I have a very limited range of taste and interest, which is the direct cause of being spoon fed this trash every year since I was a kid. That's it. That's the real reason. They only either care about superhero stuff or franchise stuff. and it's really sad. No, I'm embarrassed that this is the state of films. Like, it's the same thing every year. Just, oh, look, new superhero movie. Ooh, is it good? Nope. Seriously, like in 10 years, do you think anybody will be talking about how great Blue Beetle was or how terrific the Marvels was? Well, the only two this from this year that I think will be discussed and talked about positively, like within 5 years or a decade, are Guardians 3 and Spider Verse 2. That's it. Everything else, I actually keep forgetting Aquaman 2 is coming out. I forgot. Keep having to remind myself the DCEU is dying a slow death. That's what crazed me. So we got uh, a Superman movie, then a weird crossover with him and Batman, and then a Justice League film, and then two Wonder Woman films, two Aquaman films, a Flash movie that got delayed for like 3 or 4 years or 5 years. Like it, you could tell they had so many plans they didn't get to follow through with. No, every movie at this point is just it's all corporations trying to see how they can get some more money for them. Like you look at Sony's slate of films next year. Who the hell wants to see Madam Web? Who? Like what studio in their right mind would make a movie about a character who, as far as I can tell, has never even had her own comic book, let alone, been a starring character, or whatever. But a character who's supposed to be an old lady that sits on a in a chair looking. I mean, you can't tell me that's not them just trying to hold on to their rights. Like no one in their right mind wants to see that. That's why everyone's saying it's going to bomb. That's why everyone's saying it looks like it's crappy. And then you look at Craven, like what 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 Spider-Man fan would rather have Craven in a solo movie than with Spider-Man himself? Like what who would prefer that? That's why I said it's weird, man. Like, and they just keep pumping it out, pumping it out. Just left and right. More sludge. And that's why I asked, like, do you want to keep watching this type of stuff? Do you want every year to just keep having all the movies be the exact same thing? Ooh, superhero. Ooh, uh, first intended installment in the franchise. Yay. That's exciting to you? So I said, I want something different. It's all just so generic and redundant, and like, ugh. Hey, I know Katsuki Merchant stopped leaving comments, but I thought it was so funny that they're talking about, oh, all the characters are going to cross over in the next Avengers movie. It's like the next Avengers movie isn't for 3 years, so we're gonna see Doctor Strange 2 years back to, or rather, yeah, 2 years back to back. Then he's gonna vanish from all the movies for the next 4 years, and then suddenly be in Avengers 5. We're gonna see Spider-Man in 2021, and he's gonna vanish for the next 5 years, and suddenly be in Avengers 5. We're gonna see Thor in 2022, and then he's gonna vanish for 4 years and be in Avengers 5. I mean, like, it's stupid. See, what really, again, like I said before, what really should be going on is Marvel should take the characters that people actually care about and make more stuff with them in it before the Avengers film, so we can like be reminded of how they're progressing and what's happening with them and da 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 da. Um, so like if they were competent, we would get a fourth Holland Spider-Man film before 2026. We would get Thor 5 before that year as well, or at least an appearance by him in somebody else's movie at the very least. Um, Doctor Strange 3, like all of this stuff, Black Panther 3, they've set up. They want to do it apparently, but there's no release date for it. That's why I said, man, it's just a directionless mess. Just random events happening. And it did not start out that way. Their ego let them believe anything we make, it's going to be successful. Too big to fail. Well, they're failing. And I don't feel bad for them, because my thing is, you guys have all this money. You could be making X-Men right now. You can make a Fantastic Four right now. Apparently, they are making Fantastic Four, but we're still not getting that for like 2 years. Um, that's crazy to think about. Wow. When that comes out, it'll have been 10 years since Van Stick came out. But anyways, it's crazy that they actually have access to a lot of stuff that people do care about, even if they can't use Iron Man or Captain America anymore. But they still don't do anything with it. They'd rather make all this crap that nobody wants. I'm hearing about an Agatha Harkness spin-off series on Disney Plus, and I'm like, who requested that? That's why I said, just a bunch of random stuff just happening. Like, they're throwing everything at the wall and trying to see what sticks. That's very apparent to me. They're like this. It's sad to watch studios, because a lot of times when they're like, "Oh, you're just a hater," but no, I'm not someone who wanted Marvel to uh, go from making billions of dollars a year to bombing a couple years later. It's just really hard to feel sorry for them, because you can almost like see the arrogance in the interviews that the actors give sometimes, that the directors give. They think they're on top of the world. They think nothing is going to happen to them. Remember, it wasn't even 30, it was barely 30 years ago that Marvel was going bankrupt. Like the actual Marvel Comics, which is what triggered all these different studios having the film rights. So if they want to keep playing this dangerous game, they can keep doing it. But there's a way they could have saved themselves. It seems like they really don't realize that even at this late point. So I guess next year when Deadpool 3 comes out, which is the only movie, and that's already weird because it's like every other year. Um, I believe since 2012, where they've put out a film, it's usually been at least two. So that's already like a sign that they're trying to do some kind of course correction. But it's funny that Deadpool 3 is like the only movie they have coming next year, and it's not even theirs. Like Fox's character they imported to their crappy universe, along with Fox's version of the X-Men, seemingly. That'll be really hilarious if that movie ends up making $1 billion, because that means that the only way they can make $1 billion is if they use some characters from other people's series. Like they always act like we're so much better than Sony. We're so much better than Fox. Okay, then why was the highest grossing movie you've had since Endgame the one that had Sony's characters in it? What's the deal? How did that happen? I thought they were smarter than Sony, but they're not. They're not exactly. I mean, look, most of the characters that Marvel has, nobody cares about. Like that's just a fact. They're side characters, supporting characters. The ones that they have that people actually do want to see and have some investment in, they're not using them nearly enough to justify still following this increasingly stale universe. You had Thor last year, and even though Thor 5 is like in negotiations, we don't know if that's going to come out in 2 years, 3 years, no idea. You had, again, No Way Home, and even as successful as that movie was, still no clue on when we're getting another one. Added to the fact that Holland says he doesn't want to keep playing that character until he's 30, and he's not getting any younger. And it's like, what do you think is going to happen? You really think you're getting another trilogy with him? It's just it's hilarious. They have so many characters that people actually care about, and they don't even use them. Like after Iron Man and Cap left, they should have gone all in on X-Men and Fantastic Four and Hulk and Spider-Man and Black Panther and Doctor Strange and whatnot and Thor. Hell, they have Daredevil now. God, who it's like they were like, yeah, people really want to see Eternals the movie and Shang-Chi. And to Shang-Chi's credit, it actually did better than I thought it would, but still, it's like that 400 million is peanuts compared to everything else they have. No, Ant-Man 3 is just it's such an interesting movie from like a franchise perspective, because if you look at like the first Iron Man made like 300 million, but then the last one, Iron Man 3 made over $1 billion. Um, I'm forgetting how much Thor made, but I know that Ragnarok made over $1 billion as well. And of course, we don't have to talk about Civil War. So this is really, and No Way Home. So this is really the first time they've wrapped up a trilogy and had the third one not only not make $1 billion, but like not even come anywhere close to it. So it's really regressive, and it's like it's even worse because this is the movie where they were trying to introduce us to their new big bad antagonist who's supposed to be the main villain for the next couple of years or for the foreseeable future. And people might have said they liked the performance, but he's still a thinly written character who gets defeated by, again, one like I kept trying to explain. If you actually watch the movie, he talks about how he's killed the Avengers so many different times. He mistakes Ant-Man for Thor. Are you the one with the hammer? But then if he's getting, like, what are you trying to communicate to me? Is he if he's supposedly so strong where he can take out the whole team of Avengers by himself, but he's losing to one of them here. Are you telling me that Ant-Man is like stronger than all the Avengers together, or like what is the point of setting that up? Oh, let's not forget him throwing MODOK. Don't speak when I'm in the room. I've watched that film in its entirety now twice, and like both times I'm like, this is the great performance that everybody's telling me is so amazing, and this character is going to, be the face of villainy for the MCU for the next 5, 6, 7 years for real. That's who you want to try and like hype up as the next Thanos for real. Really? Okay. It's just like with Captain Marvel. She's the new Iron Man. No, she is not. One starring role, and then like a little extended cameo in Endgame, and then a like co-starring role in a movie that was supposed to be named after her, but that was retooled so that they could lure people into going to see it, and it still didn't work. They will never accept that nobody likes Captain Marvel. Like they will never accept it. It's like the most bitter pill for them to swallow that this character whose movie only made $1 billion because it was sandwiched between Infinity War and Endgame. They tried to ram her down our throats, and we were like, no, no, thank you. They will never acknowledge that at all. They're so stupid. They'll probably announce the Marvels 2 next year or after that. Like, but in this one, uh, they encounter Rogue. I'm not gonna lie, man. I would love so much if either during the next Avengers movie or something else with Captain Marvel, where she's got like a supposed lead role, or it looks like she, like top billing. They have Rogue just absorb her powers, and she just stays in the coma for like the whole rest of the universe. Like they could make MCU stuff for the next 20 years, and she's still in that. Oh man. I'm still mad about all the like attempts to make women less attractive. That's always frustrating to me. Because like I said, Miss Marvel back in the '90s, the '80s, even the early 2000s, she had that black leotard with the boots that went all up the legs and the gloves right here and the little red sash, man, with the long flowing hair. And now look at her. I was in I think 8th grade when they started the Captain Marvel thing, and they gave her that men's haircut and a costume that covered her whole body, and I was like, why? Just why? Stop being attractive. They always want to mess up some character's outfit to make it less wanting of the male gaze. I'm like, they did the same thing with Valkyrie. Like they make her a whole different ethnicity. Uh, and like Valkyrie was hot, man. She had the blonde pigtails and the again like the black leotard and the like, oh man, and the cape. And the only thing they keep, like, if you look at comic Valkyrie and compare her with the MCU version, the only thing the MCU version has in common with her is the cape. Different hair color, different hairstyle, different outfit. I mean, it's all they. That's what I said. All they do is they just take a name of a character and slap it on someone else, and they go, "Oh yeah, this is them." Like, it's stupid. That is funny that they use Tessa Thompson for that. It's like, you guys really want me to, like, you want me to get excited about a supporting character for Thor uh showing up in this like weird team up movie. Sorry. why I said it's just it's goofy, man. They are destroying themselves. I really don't even know what to say at this point. It's well, I think next year is going to be a big one for them as far as they really are going to probably reevaluate what they're doing. And if Ant Man, excuse me, I'll say Ant Man 3. If Deadpool 3 co-starring Wolverine isn't able to rake in some money, then they know they're in real trouble. But even then, it's like that still is a stopgap because 2026 is not that far away. Like this year is almost done. Next year is going to fly by real quick, especially with all with when you only have one movie. And then I'm just curious to see how this stuff goes. Like I can already picture the videos. Marvel had no plan. What were they doing? And I don't think those people are wrong for believing that. They have no plan. They're just going wherever the wind goes. So thanks for showing up, Akatsuki Merchant, and I will be back on Saturday.